July 29, 1981. St. Paul's Cathedral. An estimated 750 million people in 74 countries watched a 20-year-old bride in a 25-foot silk train walk toward a 32-year-old prince. It was, by every visual measure, a fairy tale. But 3 weeks before that ceremony, when a television reporter asked the couple point blank if they were in love, the bride said, "Of course." The groom said something else entirely. Whatever in love means. That single sentence, delivered on camera with the whole world watching, is the real starting point of this story. A childhood built on absence. Diana Frances Spencer was born on July 1, 1961, at Park House on the Sandringham estate, practically in the royal family's backyard before she ever married into it. Her childhood was not the storybook the tabloids later invented for her. In 1969, when Diana was 8, her parents, John Spencer and Frances Shand Kidd, separated. Her brother Charles Spencer, only 6 at the time, later said the two of them leaned on each other through it, since their older sisters were already away at boarding school. The divorce that followed was bitter and public by the standards of the day, and biographers have long pointed to it as the root of the anxious, people-pleasing instincts Diana carried into adulthood, a need to be needed that made her, ironically, the perfect candidate for a role designed entirely around being watched. The sister he dated. First, Charles didn't meet Diana as an adult. He met her as a child. In November 1977, he was invited to Althorpe, the Spencer family estate, as a guest of Diana's older sister, Sarah. Diana was 16. Years later, in their engagement interview, Charles would describe her as a jolly and amusing and attractive teenager. Diana herself later said she made a lot of noise at dinner that night, and that he seemed to like it. For the next few years, Charles was actually involved with Sarah Spencer, not Diana. That relationship reportedly ended after Sarah made an offhand comment to the press that she wouldn't marry Charles even if he were the dustman. Hardly the kind of remark a prince's mother forgets. The real shift happened in July 1980 at the home of a mutual friend, Philip de Pass, in West Sussex. Charles was mourning the assassination of his great-uncle, Lord Mountbatten, killed by an IRA bomb the previous summer. Diana, by then 19, was there too. According to Andrew Morton's later biography, for which Diana was a secret source, she comforted him about the loss, and something changed that weekend. 2 months later, Buckingham Palace extended an invitation that meant far more than it appeared to. Diana was asked to Balmoral, the royal family's Scottish estate, where the Queen herself would get a look at her. 13 dates and a deadline. What followed was less a romance than a vetting process, and it moved fast by any normal standard. Diana would later claim the two of them had met in person only 13 times before he proposed. The pressure to formalize things didn't come from Charles. According to royal biographer Sarah Bradford, it came from his father, Prince Philip, who reportedly told Charles he needed to either propose or stop seeing her, because continuing to be photographed together without a commitment was going to damage her reputation and expose her to the tabloids for nothing. Charles proposed on February 6, 1981, in the nursery at Windsor Castle. Diana said yes. The engagement was kept secret for weeks and finally made official on February 24, 1981. In the interview announcing it, a reporter asked if they were in love. Diana's "of course" and Charles's "whatever in love means" aired within seconds of each other, and it became one of the most replayed exchanges in royal history, a warning sign, in hindsight, that nobody involved chose to hear. There's a detail from royal historian Hugo Vickers' biography of the Queen that captures the mood behind closed doors better than any press photo. Both Charles and Diana reportedly had serious doubts in the run-up to the wedding. Vickers wrote that Diana barely knew Charles at all. She'd apparently addressed him as "Sir" right up until the day they got engaged. A guest named Camilla. Here's the detail that rarely makes the highlight reel. Camilla Shand, Charles's former girlfriend, by then married and going by Camilla Parker Bowles, was on the guest list for the wedding. She attended with her son. Charles and Camilla's relationship predated Diana entirely, and by most royal biographers' accounts, it never fully ended. It just went underground for a few years while Charles did what was expected of him. On the day itself, Diana later told Morton she was so overwhelmed with love that she couldn't take her eyes off her new husband. "I just absolutely thought I was the luckiest girl in the world," she said. Whatever doubts existed going in, the wedding day itself, for her, felt real. The honeymoon and the first cracks. The newlyweds spent part of their honeymoon aboard the royal yacht Britannia, cruising the Mediterranean in front of a press pack that never fully left them alone. Diana was 20 years old, thrust overnight from a shared London flat into a life with round-the-clock protocol officers, dressers, and a husband whose emotional attachments, by several accounts, hadn't fully relocated with him. Biographers have noted that even during those early weeks, Diana struggled visibly with the isolation of royal life. The beginning of what would later be diagnosed, in her own words, as bulimia, a condition she said took hold almost as soon as the wedding ring went on. The marriage, 1981 to 1986. The couple settled into Highgrove House in Gloucestershire, with a flat at Kensington Palace for London. Prince William arrived in June 1982, Prince Harry in September 1984. On the surface, the fairy tale was intact. 2 healthy sons, an heir and a spare, exactly what the institution required. Underneath it, the relationship was already fraying. In 1987, Diana skipped the family's traditional summer trip to Balmoral, a break from royal ritual significant enough that it set off a fresh round of rumors the marriage was in trouble. By most biographers' accounts, both Charles and Diana had drifted into affairs of their own by the mid-1980s, though neither would confirm it publicly for years. Diana herself later suggested, in a private recording made with a voice coach in 1992, that she'd been deeply attached to someone in her own protection circle between 1984 and 1986, a bodyguard named Barry Manicky, who was quietly reassigned once royal officials decided the closeness had become inappropriate. Squidgygate. Before Camillagate ever broke, there was Squidgygate. On August 23, 1992, The Sun published transcripts of a taped phone call between Diana and a close friend, James Gilby, recorded on New Year's Eve 1989. Gilby called her Squidgy more than 50 times across the conversation. In it, Diana described her marriage as unhappy, referenced Charles's ongoing connection to Camilla, and said her royal life had become, in her words, real torture. The tape had apparently been picked up by an amateur radio enthusiast years earlier and sat unused until a tabloid decided it was worth more as a headline than as gossip. Diana later denied the relationship with Gilby was romantic, framing the leak as a deliberate attempt to damage her standing inside the palace. Whether or not that's true, the timing was brutal. It landed just as her marriage was already collapsing in public. Camillagate. In December 1989, a private phone call between Charles and Camilla was secretly recorded. It stayed out of public view for 3 years, until the full transcript was published in January 1993 in a scandal the British press nicknamed Camillagate. The conversation was intimate to the point of being excruciating for a sitting heir to the throne, the kind of leak that turns a private betrayal into a national headline overnight. By then, the damage inside the marriage was already done. Diana had reportedly confronted Camilla directly about the affair back in 1989. Andrew Morton's book, published in June 1992, which the public didn't know at the time was built largely on Diana's own testimony, given secretly through friends, laid out her unhappiness in devastating detail. 6 months later, on December 9, 1992, then Prime Minister John Major stood in the House of Commons and announced that the Prince and Princess of Wales had decided to separate. He was careful to add that there were no plans to divorce. 2 confessions. What happened over the next 3 years was almost unheard of for a royal marriage. Both parties admitted their infidelity on camera to the entire country. Charles went first in a 1994 television documentary with Jonathan Dimbleby, acknowledging he'd had an affair, though he framed it as something that only began after the marriage had already, in his words, broken down beyond repair. Diana answered in November 1995 in her now legendary BBC Panorama interview with Martin Bashir. She admitted to an affair of her own, spoke openly about postpartum depression, self-harm, and bulimia, and delivered the line that outlived the entire scandal, describing her marriage as crowded because there were 3 people in it, not to the end. Queen Elizabeth II reportedly urged the couple directly to divorce in the summer of 1996. 2 months later, on August 28, 1996, Charles and Diana's 15-year marriage was formally dissolved. As part of the settlement, Diana kept her apartments at Kensington Palace and the title Princess of Wales, but agreed to give up the style Her Royal Highness and any future claim to the throne. Reports at the time put her settlement at roughly $22.5 million. Freed from royal protocol for the first time in 15 years, Diana threw herself into causes the palace had always kept at arm's length, most famously walking through an active minefield in Angola in January 1997, drawing global attention to landmine clearance just months before her death. Paris, and what came after. On August 31, 1997, Diana died in a car crash in Paris. She was 36. Her funeral at Westminster Abbey drew an estimated crowd of more than 1 million people lining the streets of London, and a television audience numbering in the hundreds of millions, a mirror in scale of the wedding 16 years earlier, except this time the world wasn't celebrating. Charles married Camilla Parker Bowles in 2005, nearly 3 decades after that first meeting when he was still dating her, not Diana. According to Tina Brown's 2007 biography, by the final months of Diana's life, she and Charles had actually reached the best terms they'd had in years, co-parenting William and Harry, and by some accounts, something close to genuine peace. Look at that engagement photo again, the one where he's smiling and she's beaming beside him, both of them so young, one of them not yet 20. Everyone watching in 1981 saw a fairy tale being confirmed on live television. What they were actually watching was a prince answer, honestly, that he didn't know what love meant, and a country decide to believe the dress instead.